feel like we're always talking about how we communicate with our kids about different things that are coming up, different changes. But for those of you that are piggy parents, obviously maternity leaves cause a change. But I also feel like so many of our kids, there's just changes happening in spring to the end of the school year that lots of these things come up in terms of changing schools, some friends leaving, some friends staying at a school. So I felt like there was actually multiple kinds of changes that are happening that we could kind of talk about the way we think about how to communicate change with kids, that change is not easy, change is hard to understand. And I think if we think about it from a perspective taking place, it's really hard for kids to kind of leave their brain to think about what is going to be a change and how it's going to affect them to prepare them for it. So it, I think kind of there's general thoughts, and then we can talk about specific scenarios that are happening that could be affecting different kids in different ways. But generally, counter to how you might want to think about it, we less to us for kids that really are going to have a hard time with change because of flexibility, because of anxiety, because of a very black and white way of thinking about things. One might say that talking about it for a long period of time and talking about it duration wise, length long, and then a lot of talk about it is important. Actually, we would say for many kids, that almost exacerbates their anxiety rather than decreasing their anxiety. So let's think of a move with a new house. If you're not moving until June, yet you're talking about it in April, as an adult, there's a lot of things we have to think about in terms of a move and all of those different pieces. But for kids, it's really the here and now that affects them. It's the what is it going to look like to move? What is it going to feel like to move? But if we start talking about it well ahead of time, we're actually making them think about something that isn't affecting them yet. So if we wait and talk about it with a couple, like once we start packing up the house, then it's real to them. I always base things off of what is in their reality in front of their face rather than this like higher level that as adults we have to think about well before it becomes reality. For our kids, when the reality hits is when we want to be like one half step up in front of the reality. So when we start thinking about packing up our house, a week before that, we want to start talking about how um that like maybe they knew you were looking at houses, but you haven't told them. Then we start talking about moves and that we're going to have a new house. And I think one of the most important things that I would say in terms of any kind of a change is helping kids understand the concept of same but different, that some things will be the same, some things will be different. And within any kind of a change, you always, as us as teachers, as adults, you want to try to change one or two things more over trying to change everything at once. So, like, if you think about a move, the house is going to be different. But for many kids, it's really helpful to have their room look the same so that then they're getting used to the house rather than they're getting used to a new room in a new house and all too many new things. So you always kind of want to go a plus one rather than a blank slate plus 100, because that's going to be really dysregulating and really confusing for our kids. So even if you think about if you go to a hotel What's your same but different? You're going to bring the same stuffies. You're going to bring their favorite pajamas. You're going to create the largest window of tolerance in terms of change that you can so that they feel successful and feel comfortable in that new setting. So if we think about a maternity leave, because that's actually happening in both schools within the same month, there is going to be a change that a teacher is going to be leaving, but what you can talk to your kids about is what's different and what's the same. And really, it's a plus one because there's so many things that are the same. The difference is there is not going to be a Miss Maggie, but oh, wait, there's going to be a Mr. Kevin in there all the time. There's going to be a Brianna in there part of the time. So, this what helps our kids understand and be able to tolerate and start to enjoy a change is if we start to help them understand the same but different aspects of that different change in a way that makes sense to them. So we always kind of have to go with what their perspective on it is. If they are, if let's say with a maternity leave, if they're very connected to Maggie, that's going to be a big difference. But for our kids in other classes, that might be a small difference. And oh, yes, Maggie's not going to be out at recess, but oh, I know the same is going to be that Maddie and Leslie and Reynolds will be out there at recess. For in the classroom, you can talk about what are the things that are going to make you miss Maggie, and then talk about, oh, so you like that Maggie plays whatever tag at recess. Oh, wait, then I know Miss Reynolds is going to be there. So different Miss Maggie's not going to play it, but same Miss Reynolds can play it, and you can teach her the rules of it so that you're trying to get them to see that their perspective is still going to get valued and that there is some same even within a different change. The other thing that's really important to do with a new school, with a new move, um, obviously with a maternity leave, is really continuing to stay positive with it. And what I think as parents, we're so nervous about these changes that the child gets in the car and the first thing out of our mouth might be, oh, was it so different without Ms. Maggie? How was it without Ms. Maggie? So we're giving them that kind of a, oh no, we know it's going to go bad. So then a child is always looking to grab our attention. So if they say, I hate it, I hate school, and then our answer is going to be like, oh no, you must be like, oh no, that's because Miss Maggie's left. What we want to try to do is really stay positive with our communication so that they see that even in the midst of change, there's many, many positives. So if the first day back, they're probably not like on the first day to school when Maggie or Julianne is not there, you can be like, oh, I know today's going to be different. Miss Maggie's not going to be there, but I know that Mr. Kevin is going to be there. And I know you like to do this with Mr. Kevin, and I know you like to do this with Miss Reynolds, so that you're keeping it very positive. And then if they get in the car or they had a tricky day, which we're expecting them all to be because it's different, then when they're getting in the car, what you want to refrain from doing is going down the negative path of, oh no, was it a bad day because Miss Maggie wasn't there? No, it was just a different day. So then you can say, oh, I wonder what you did fun with Miss Reynolds, or oh, I know Miss Maggie isn't there. That must feel different, but I know Miss Reynolds can help you if you need help or something like that, so that you're always validating that it feels different without Maggie or without Julianne, but then switching to, oh, I know Miss Reynolds can be a help for you, and you know Miss Reynolds as well as you know Miss Maggie, so she can be a help to you. So switching it into a positive so that they are able to connect to the positives with it. And the biggest part of as a parent, we are not feeding on the negative, because then what's going to happen is all of a sudden if we get, and this goes for anything, if a child gets in the car and we're like, oh, did you have a bad day today? Then they think, oh, wait, this is how I get mom's attention. And then they come up with four things they did bad. Whereas the first day after Maggie, Julianne come back, or even the first day of school when it's a different classroom, you could say anything positive like, oh, I see paint on your pants. I bet you must have painted. That must have been fun. Or, oh, it was so warm out. I wonder what you did for recess. Like coming up with something positive that allows them to grab onto and that they know they are getting your attention for positives. I think it's the biggest thing I talk to parents about in general with coaching around, don't feed on the negative, because then they think they have to give you negative information for you to pay attention to them. Get the positive information and pay attention to it and validate it so that they know they can come out to the car with positive and that you're going to give them that validation for that. Um, Communication was one big thing. Time, which we kind of talked about in the beginning, but to talk about more so, is less is more, shorter than longer time. I think if with maternity leave, this is a good week to talk about it because Maggie's leaving at the end of the week. With Julianne's, it's not till end of May, so there's no reason to talk about it now. I think the week of the leave is really the best time to talk about it. And for Maggie's, she's doing a lot around play with it and really using the baby animals as we're becoming caretakers and there's baby animals. So it was like an intentional theme to work through some of their feelings and helping them take care of other animals. So that if kids are asking questions about Maggie leaving, then a lot of what you say is, oh, remember, just like baby animals, Maggie has to take care of her baby. So this will be her last week at Fuse, but I know you have Mr. Kevin. I know you have Miss Reynolds. And guess what? Everyone is there to help you if you need help so that the kids aren't feeling nervous about Maggie leaving because everything is set up for them and there's really good supports in place for them. If it's all of a sudden, now, right now, they're talking about another move, like a change from school, I really would be like, oh, that's pretty far away. We can talk about that when it gets closer. Let's think about how exciting Fuse is and all the exciting things we're doing at Fuse right now. If they want to talk about it and they're open to, and it doesn't create anxiety for them, then of course talk about it. Go to the playground, go be around the school. I think there's the duration of how long or far out we talk about things, and we always go shorter than longer because the longer out you go, the more you really increase anxiety around the unknown thing. And that does not do well for our kids. Um, so you want to try to make it a short, tangible concept for them to understand the change that's about to happen. And then the fourth thing I wanted to talk about was around how to make a change tangible. And that is really around um, previewing, what's visually previewing what the change is going to be. If it's a change in a home, taking pictures of the new house, letting them help have ownership around it, the autonomy around it, let them help set up their room. If it's a school, taking pictures of it, really pushing, we always say this in the IP meetings, but pushing for them to be able to meet their teacher ahead of time in those like clean whatever, preparing the classroom, having them meet their teachers. So all of those, there's like plus 10 for a new school. So the more you can eliminate the pluses ahead of time, then it means all that's going to be new on that first day is the chaos. They know the school, they know the setting, they know the playground, then they know the teacher. They have to learn the kids. Maybe if you are in a district that does a lot of play dates with incoming kindergarten, incoming first grade, that's one way to meet people. You want to think about all the elements that are different about a school change and try to do as much of those to get those within the window of tolerance as possible before the school year starts. Kids are always going to be outside of that window of tolerance. The noise, the chaos, that's always going to be outside of the window of tolerance because they're not used to it. But the more we can fit into that window of tolerance of what they are capable of and how they can get used to something is going to make that move a lot easier and the transition easier because there's known entities around that. For a maternity leave, obviously you have pictures of they know Maggie is pregnant. It's talked about a lot. What you're going to do is talk about that Maggie has to go take care of her baby. They're all talking about it with taking care of the baby animals. And then during the whole maternity leave, if they're having moments of missing Maggie, of course you validate that. You validate their emotions around all of these changes. When the changes in process is when you really want to validate the feelings about it and their sadness about it. That's where in the beginning you want to leave it very kind of structured of we are like not doing it far ahead and really talking about the concepts of what's going to happen. We're like Maggie's leaving, but Reynolds is staying. When you're in the moment of the transition, you want to validate those feelings. You want to share if they've had a tricky day at school. You want to say, oh, I know it feels different without Miss Maggie there. And you can talk about what's the same, what's different about when Maggie was there. But the other part you can do is look at pictures of Maggie, go through the bright wheel and look at all the fun times you had together. Same as if you move a house, go look at pictures of your old house. We renovated our house, and my kids love to look at pictures of before the renovation of, oh my God, I can't believe we live there. So you just make sense of it and you resonate it together by looking at the memories and looking at what's happening currently to try to make sense of it and synthesize it for our kids. Um, and then you're physically like a school, you're physically going there to be on the playground, to walk around in the school so that that becomes less of a new demand once the school year starts. Um, and then, like I said, the thing that I was just going to mention was really talking about validating emotions, processing emotions, helping them see that it's okay to have feelings about changes because changes are hard, and talk to them about like language mantras we use all the time here is, oh, Maggie leaving was a change. Change is really hard. And talk to them about what their strategies are in terms of change, so that then you can help them utilize some of their strategies. Um, those are kind of my, I thought four, but definitely five with emotions. Those are kind of my big picture things that I wanted to go over in terms of transitions. But do you guys have questions that might be helpful for the group around any kind of a change?
One thing that Lorenzo has struggled with, and it hasn't been an issue much, is I generally do the drop-offs and the pickups for school. A couple weeks ago, Randy had to do the pickup, and next month he's going to have to do the drop-off and the pickup once each month. I don't really know how to approach it with Lorenzo. Last time I had kind of warned him like a couple days ahead that daddy was going to be doing the pickup and maybe the drop off, but I was able to do the drop off. I just don't know how much prep I should give
Yeah,
him.
that's actually a great one because that happens all the time. I would say there are a couple of ways that you could do it. Um, for Lorenzo, so like my general answer is to put on the calendar who is going to do, is it going to be a mommy pickup, a daddy pickup, so that he knows. But what he is going to do, because he's so used to you doing it, is he's going to see daddy's on Tuesday and rip daddy right off the calendar and be like, nope, I don't want daddy to do pickup. Like he'll start focusing on that's not what he wants. So the another thing that you what basically in the realm of pickup drop off, because it's so routine based, you want him to get more used to seeing dad as an option for that. So some days, and I don't know if this ever works in your house, is have it be a mom and dad drop off so that he sees that, hey, we can all do things together. This is fun. This is going to be a dad, like mom and dad are going to go together. And then on Friday, it's going to be a dad day so that he sees that you can both, I think he thinks of it as his mom time over that it could be either parent. So the biggest way to preview it is to put it on the schedule for the week of what's going to happen. That one, I would say you want to, surprising him is not going to go great because he's so focused on the schedule. So you want to kind of do a week of that, like when it's in the week cards, then put it on the calendar for who's going to do drop off and who's going to do pickup. But I think you can be talking about it of, oh, today's a mommy day. I know next Tuesday is going to be a daddy day. And then what you want to do is have special things he does in the car with you and special things he does in the car with dad, so that those are the things like maybe him and dad do Beatles songs that you don't do so that he can be like, oh, those are my dad songs to play in the car. So he gets a little bit of that same, like, he gets some sameness of like, okay, I know I like these Beatles songs, but those are going to be me and dad's Beatles songs that we listen to in the car or something like that. So that it feels more, becomes a transitional object almost, or there's something he brings in the car when it's him and dad. Is it the physical dad driving or like he just wants you in the car?
Um, he wants me in the car, and it's just what he's used to. I mean,
Right.
I I've talked about this with friends before, but during the week, I'm the primary parent. On the weekends,
Yes.
Randy's more the primary parent, and he's just kind of used to that. And it switches up a little bit on the weekends, and Randy and I certainly both do things with him as well on the weekends, but
But he's more used to Randy during the weekends.
yeah, and he's definitely like he doesn't see Randy Randy leaves for work before he's even out of bed in the morning, and he
Right.
doesn't get home until dinner's over. So during the week, it's pretty much all mommy. Um, so
So
that
I think if it gets into the schedule and he can see it, that might help. And talking about, oh, when it's a daddy day, you guys are going to do, like, they can talk about on the weekends some things they'll do on daddy drop off days that will be fun for them. And I think it's just one of those that, like, even like you said earlier, one of those days you could end up doing pickup, but he thought dad was going to do it. If Randy can still do it, I'd let him do it, because if that's what Lorenzo was thinking in his head, then it kind of, I would stick with it because you want him to be okay with Randy doing the pickup
mhm,
or the drop off.
mhm.
And I mean, Lorenzo's a schedule guy. So when it's on the schedule and in the weekend, Randy and Lorenzo are talking about, ooh, Tuesday's going to be a me day. Mommy's busy. And really, it's kind of this is a mommy and daddy choice. Sometimes it can be a Lorenzo choice, but this is a mommy daddy choice. Like it'll be like, of course, the kids love having Kevin for a buddy snack, but it could be me or it could be Brianna and they love Kevin. And I'm like, oh, today's a teacher choice. It's me. Let's think of something fun we can do together. So it is not that they don't like me. It's just that Kevin was their plan and Kevin's the regular buddy choice. So it just turns into, oh well, guess you've got me today, so let's make something fun of it. And I think in that moment, just you have to, and I'm sure you do, just back the Randy plan of like, oh, today is a dad's day. Dad's so much fun, way more fun than me. He lets you listen to whatever, so that then Lorenzo doesn't see it as like a tug between the two of you.
Yep. Okay. Got it. Thank you.
Yes. I don't know, Lena, if you're listening, but you did a great job of getting John to be a drop-off person recently. That was successful.
Yes, he was excited. I think Con goes with like we were talking about it today, the sort of like the autism ADHD, like Con loves a schedule, but he also loves like an exciting new plan. So if you just make a big exciting
Okay.
deal of it, he gets excited.
That's true. You just make it like, ooh, it's a dad day, and here's what we're going to do fun and different about it.
Yeah.
Other change questions or other questions about the maternity leave? I know some of you, Piggy, is there other questions about how to communicate it to kids that is helpful to hear?
I guess just one question. It's not exactly about that, but
Yeah.
will they see Maggie again after she's gone? Like, will she be back, like, for school pictures or something? Is there anything that we should be preparing them for that they might see her at some point, but she's not going to be back in the classroom, but she might have a visit or
So
something?
I would say we haven't talked a little bit about school pictures. But I wouldn't guarantee that because if it's not going to happen, so she will FaceTime, Zoom with them. She's already she's already done some pre-recordings of like books she's going to read to them. So like I would say they will see her on Zoom to show the baby. And she'll send pictures in Brightwheel for sure. So you can say, oh, I know Ms. Maggie is going to send some pictures to us. And I bet she's going to FaceTime so that you guys can see the baby. She will do all of that. I just don't want to set a certain day because if it doesn't, like Lorenzo will be thinking about picture day forever. And then if it's a bomb, I don't want to set that up.
Yeah.
Um, but certainly she will FaceTime into the classroom.
Okay. Yeah, I think the school picture thing was more like a piggy mom's question, like, oh, we hope that Maggie will be there for it than
I
the kid.
know. We've
So,
talked about it. I just don't want to guarantee it. I mean, it's a probability.
okay.
It would be lovely. And
It would
I'm
be.
like, I'll hold the baby and
Yeah,
you can
no,
get in the
we will all
picture.
go. We will all go and hold the baby. We'd be
Yes.
thrilled to do that. So,
Yes, exactly. There's many baby holders.
yeah.
So I think that is the case. I don't know, but you never know with new babies. You can't guarantee it.
Yep. Yep. Okay.
Oh,
Thank
yes.
you.
Okay. I just wanted to give you some ideas about change, but obviously if you have a change coming up, also we have great social stories about school change, moving schools. I think all the kids at the end of the year, they'll start talking about school changes really much closer to the end of the year. We have a great social story about saying goodbye to Fuse, but your heart is still at Fuse. You can always come back to Fuse, but now you're going to a new fun school. So those are social stories that we will share much closer to the end of the year and talk about it as an exciting change for many of our kids. And those that are staying, we talk about it as same for both. The moving schools are staying at Fuse, that it's same but difference. And kids that are moving to a different classroom, we have a social story for that. The other thing you can do is if you're doing some internal, like even the car who's dropping off, it's weird. We probably should have a social story. We don't. But like ChatGPT makes an incredible social story now. If you just put in your names, it'll make a social story and then you add the pictures of Randy Maple, like mom, dad, and who's doing what, and that it's the same but different. Um, there's really simple ways to do a social story that really will help kids make sense of it and keep it really positive. So if you are doing a change and you want to think about a social story, message the teachers because we might have one. Or now the internet has great social stories that you can just change out the pictures to as well. All right, well, thank you guys.